Okay, so let's go ahead and get started. I'm Michael Adam over here on this end of the call. We are going to be recording this seminar this evening, and it will be available on YouTube um, later this evening or tomorrow. So, welcome. We'll go ahead and jump right in. So I do have some stuff I wanted to cover briefly before we jump into Q&A. I've got some status updates as well as wanted to talk about the STIMS situation going on, and then we'll go into event registration rubrics, and then we'll open it up for any questions anyone has. So going quickly through it, we're currently sitting at 110 teams registered in the region with 12 still in progress. This does put us under capacity right now. We're going to be reaching out to some other teams to make sure we get everyone in, but that might change our registration stuff once we get to event registration next week. In regards to the STIMS stuff, just a reminder, we kind of announced it last week that we did delay event registration due to the delay in STIMS. STIMS might have gone live today. I'm not sure if STIMS went live. There was no communication to partners, but we did start seeing member information on some rosters for some teams. I'm not sure. When we get to Q&A, I'll open it up, and maybe you guys can let me know whether or not STIMS is available. But that is where you will download your consent and release forms right through STIMS, through the National Registration Portal. The consent release form is not available publicly online anymore. And so that's the only way to get it. What can you be doing now until STIMS goes live? Be sure to add your entire team to the roster and mark members as STIMS if they're going to complete the paperwork online once STIMS opens. If you plan on downloading it and uploading it, that's fine. You can just leave the forms blank until you download the paperwork, or mark it STIMS for us to look at once the rosters go live. We've had some questions about coaches in my CVR. This is what I have on the slide here is just from our email that went out last week. Coaches do not automatically import into my CVR unless they have their own account. We don't have enough information to import them without a user account. So if they are to be manually added, you can't manually add a coach if they don't want to create an account. The other coach, at least one of the coaches, has to be affiliated with the team with an account, so that user can add the coach and their relevant paperwork. You can just mark the consent release form as STIMS, because that's effectively what they do when they do the screening. The coach agreement is available online on our website. And all the links in the email blast will take you there, or it's just gocvr.org/FLL-forms. And then you upload the coach agreement on your account settings page under forms if you have a user account. Otherwise, it's uploaded on the members page. What's next? Okay. Is there any questions up to this point on the coaches, STIMS stuff that's been going on? I am sorry, it's been kind of confusing. It's been confusing for us as well over here at Such Valley Robotics. First, it's not communicated much information to us regarding what's coming or what's happening. So we will turn on importing of STIMS once it is known to us that STIMS is available and the data we're getting is accurate. But until then, that feature will not be available. Any other questions? Okay. Just a reminder, we do have our scrimmage coming up on, so going now to some event dates for 2017. Our scrimmage the Buchanan Bird Brains are hosting a scrimmage on October 21st. That has been posted to our website. And then all of our qualifiers, I have them here on the slide deck, but they're the same thing that's online on our website. For First Legally Junior, we have yet to confirm any more expos. That's still in progress. in terms of expectations for teams in terms of registration, we have posted
Hey,
all of.
Michael, this is Ninda. Just real quick on those, those dates for the qualifier.
Yes.
How sure is Fresno State? I know last year it was canceled.
They're still committed. I have not heard anything yet. I think there were some issues last year with the facilities, but they ironed that out this year. So it looks like everything's still on board
Okay,
for that event. It'll be held in the north and south gyms at the Fresno State campus. So there.
perfect. All right, thank you.
So yeah, and I do have a little more notes on that. So in terms of, since we are under capacity a little, if we don't get to 120 by the time event registration opens and CVR feels confident we'll have 120 teams participating in the region, we may cancel one event to ensure that our capacities at our qualifiers will be high enough to justify the cost for each qualifier. So we don't want to, it becomes burdensome when we get down to 12 to 15 teams at a qualifier right now, becomes burdensome on our event partners. So we'll see. There's some teams still getting in, and we're going to see where we end up. There's also some teams that are registered of that 110 that they're not in my CVR yet. They've got one coach, and so I'm not sure if they will participate, which will also adjust our event, which events we will actually go forward with. There's nothing CVR can do about that really, and we'll make those decisions come the middle of next week once teams get in. We'll be pushing our teams. That's about as much as CVR can do right now, is to push everyone to get in and confirm that they will participate this season. And we will announce that as soon as we know, but that will probably be either Wednesday night or Thursday morning if we do make any changes. We're not planning on anything right now, but if something does happen, we'll let you know as soon as we can. Let's see. Oh. So, trying to advance slide deck here. What I've got on the slide deck right now is just an overview of what you see now on our event pages on our website. Just some overview information, the number of judging lanes, robot game tables. Advancement information will become available in November once all of our registrations have settled. All of our registration fees are $85 for each qualifier. The scrimmage registration fee is $30. And you'll get payment details.
Michael, it's a little bit difficult to hear you. Can you possibly speak a little bit louder? And because I couldn't hear what the fees were for the qualifiers.
Okay, let's try that. Is that better?
No, it's about the same. I don't know. It's just maybe it's my phone connection, but you sound very far away.
Okay, I keep playing with knobs over here on my end to see if I can increase the volume.
Okay, no, it's fine. But could you repeat what the qualifier fees were? Was it 65 or 75? I can.
It's 85 this year.
Oh.
And then it's
85.
Yes. And then it's 30 for the scrimmage.
Okay.
And the payment information will be available via email after you get confirmed to an event. My CVR will send that information via email, and it will also be available in my CVR. So, yeah. Any questions there? Okay. And then just to move on, here's another screenshot I've got on the slide deck right now is the picture of what the registration table looks like in my CVR. Just kind of wanted to give the visual to everyone. The little orange hourglass symbol will become a green plus button once registration opens, and that's how you'll start the registration process. You do need to have all your forms in to register. For a qualifier, you do not need your forms or roster set to register for the scrimmage. So again, the forms are only required for qualifiers. So when scrimmage registration opens in 50 minutes at 7 p.m., you can anyone can jump into that. Just wanted to recap some resources. Make sure you check them out on our website. The Season Standards Manual is very key. We still need to update it to add the scrimmage dates, but everything else in it is still accurate, and it's very important that teams read that. We've gotten a lot of questions lately, and we've been pointing people to the Season Standards Manual, so be sure to make sure that you read that, get the details from it. In terms of other resources, we did mention this at kickoff, but just wanted to mention it again, and we sent it out in the email blast today. The FLL, or rather the First Steps online training series, that's available at the link in the email. It's also the available link here and will be in the slide deck that I post later. But it is a comprehensive getting started guide from First on First LEGO League. So if you're interested, it's definitely a resource to check out. And then our team lists, if you are a site coordinator interested in a bulk look at your team statuses, that's also available on our website. Recapping important dates. Tonight, scrimmage registration for the scrimmage opens. And then October 5th, it was September 28th, but we pushed it back a week due to the STIMS delays. So next Thursday will be event registration. And then October 27th is when we're going to start locking information. We want all of our teams registered by the 2nd of November. Our qualifiers are currently on the November 4th and 18th, as well as December 2, 9, and 16. We'll hope that all those dates stay up. And then, again, very important, if you do pick a later qualifier, you will have less time to register for the championship. You'll have only about 7 days to register. And then the rest of the dates for the season are there and on the Season Standards Manual. But we'll get to those as we get closer. Coaches are welcome to volunteer. Just going to put that out there now. At an event for which your team's not participating, definitely get some experience on the other side of the table if you're interested on how an event day runs. So from there, I just have the rubrics for reference here, but that's kind of all I had to cover for this evening. So I will just jump to the game field here for any questions. So I'll just open it up. Actually, before I open it for questions, there were two kind of requests through the RSVP portal on questions. One question was, does the robot have to return to base between missions? The answer is no. The robot can stay out and do as many missions as it wants, unless the mission text itself requires the robot to return to base before trying it again. That's been the case in previous years. I can't remember off the top of my head if that's the case for this year, but the mission text will describe if you have to return to base between attempts, but typically for most missions you do not have to return to base between. So you can go out, have one program or whatever go accomplish 2 to 3 missions in one go. And then someone else asked for some basic guides and information. I would defer to the First Steps training for that. That has a lot of good stuff on getting started and timelines in there. So that would be a good place to go for that information. With that, I will open it up for questions now. Does anyone have any questions on anything related to the program, what we do, programming, robot game, etc.? We won't bite. I promise. Our judge advisor is also on the line if you have any questions on judging that she can answer for us.
Michael, a quick question about the pump edition. So for that mission, I know that the pump edition needs to rest in the black box that's on the table, on the mat. My question is, I know that's on the north side of the mat, so there could be a little bit of gap between the mat and the end of the table, is that zone considered out of the mat? The zone that is outside the mat, is that considered like what happens if the front addition, a little bit of it falls outside the mat in that zone?
So you're asking, so like the pipe replacement area on the north side in the center, or the cooperative mission in the top left?
This is the pump addition, which is on
The pump, okay.
on left of the table.
Is Steven on the line? Or Phil?
I am. If you're in the, if you're referring to the section where the target area is as a gap between the mat and the wall, that gap would be considered inside.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
No problem. Since we are talking about Robot Game, I'll put this up on the screen. We are working on the Robot Game score sheet. We'll post that to our website soon. I have the draft up on the screen right now, but it's just a bunch of questions and answers that we hope that you introduce to your kids so that they know the missions they've completed and what the score sheet should look like, because the referee will go over it with them after each match. But I'll put the field back up. Any other questions? Anyone else?
And the scrimmage sign-up, that starts at 7 tonight, or?
Correct. That'll open at 7 tonight.
Okay.
So my plan was to have it open after we were done here on the phone call.
Okay, and you don't have to have completed all of the paperwork yet, obviously, or?
Correct. You there's no, your team status doesn't matter. So your roster, your forms, none of that matters for scrimmage registration. So to let anyone register tonight.
Okay, because ours is very incomplete, so just want to make sure it was okay.
Yep, that's we don't enforce the form stuff for scrimmages since they're practice events. Any other questions? Judging? I'll just briefly go over what to expect on event day, since we have a couple minutes here. When your team does show up on event day, there'll be a brief set of opening ceremonies and some stuff we'll talk about. Teams will then head back to their pits, and for the next 4 to 6 hours with some breaks in between, we'll be going through robot game matches and judging. When you head up to the table for your scheduled robot game match, be sure to bring all your robot in pieces. The robot game area will enforce all the robot game rules, so no laptops, no wireless control, all that stuff. 2 kids allowed at the table. We do allow 3 in the case of emergencies, the robot falling apart. Kids can tag out at the table for their 2.5-minute match. You'll be granted at least 1 minute of setup to calibrate sensors or whatever you want to do during that 1 minute, and then the referee will check to make sure the team's ready, and we'll signal to the head referee and the score desk that we're good to start the match. Kids should also make sure that they know how the field's set up. Our volunteers do the best they can to set up the field, but sometimes stuff gets missed. It's important, that we catch that before the match starts. Once the match starts, we can't reset anything, even if it wasn't set up properly before the match. So it's important that the kids know that they can ask questions to the referees and say, "Is that set up right?" Not sure if if the pump is in the right position, or if the processing plant has been properly reset. And the referee will go inspect it and make any adjustments as necessary. The match will run for 2.5 minutes with our countdown of 3, 2, 1, Lego. And the match starts at the beginning of Lego. After the match, the referee will score the field. He'll then sit down with the kids afterwards, go over that score sheet that will be available on our website, discuss why he marked things the way he did. The kids can talk about it, and then once the kids initial that score sheet, it's considered final, and then it heads off to the score computer to be entered, and then points will be assigned accordingly. After that, kids will take all their materials and everything off the table, and the referee will clear it for reset. On the other side of things, when you have judging, be sure to take all of your judging materials with you. Everything. That includes your core values, anything you're going to give to the judges for core values, your entire project presentation, which can be a skit, props, your binders, whatever you're going to do for your project component. And then be sure to bring all of your robot stuff for the robot game judging session, where the kids will need to do a trial run on a field in there. And so it's important that you bring everything you want to demonstrate in your robot game session. You won't have that much time between the judging sessions. They do occur back to back. 5 minutes to 7 minutes break in between. So, and that includes cleanup between the rooms, transitioning and all that. So it's important that you bring all your stuff with you the first time. There may not be a lot of time to run to the pits, depending on how far they are, depending on which event you attend. Your judging sessions will be kind of in any order. Depends on the random schedule on which session you'll start. So you may start in core values, and while other teams are starting in robot design. You won't have any robot game matches during that 45 to 50 minute block. Your judging sessions may be before lunch, maybe after lunch. Your robot game matches will be both before and after as the day progresses. There will be a slight break after the end of the last robot game match to allow judging to catch up, get the final data in, the judges to make their final decisions regarding advancement and deliberations. And then we'll have our closing ceremony where we hand out the awards. Teams will know if they advance to the championship during closing ceremonies. And you'll also receive your rubrics and feedback from judges shortly after the event through MyCBR. One thing I forgot to mention in the morning before opening ceremonies is the coaches meeting at the qualifiers, which will allow coaches to ask questions. We go over how many teams are advancing, final cutoff information. All that will be announced at that meeting in the morning. All of what I just described is in the season standards manual as well, so it can be referenced there after this call if you want to get a full detailed breakdown of everything. I did skip over a couple things as I was mentioning that, and the entire thing is in that manual.
Hey, Michael.
Yep.
You might want to remind everybody about practice fields and how loose models will not be provided.
Oh, good reminder, Stephen. Yeah, so all of our practice fields on event day do not include any free-floating models. They tend to walk off, and so we can't necessarily provide them. They're typically used on the actual competition fields as backups. So if you want to practice on any of the practice fields at an official event, if you want to practice on any practice fields at a qualifier, you'll need to bring your own free-floating models. Those are basically models that are not dual-locked. You imagine turning the table upside down, anything that's Velcroed will stay, and that will be what is provided on the table. Going further into practice fields, there will be sign-ups in advance for practice field slots, and then there'll be also more slots on the event day that teams can sign up for through Pit Admin. The slots are typically 10 to 15 minutes, and so during that time slot, if you want to use the table, you'll need to bring any free-floating models. So in the picture of the field I have up on the slide deck. That includes anything in base, any of the waters, any of the stuff in the rain cloud, so forth. Any questions on anything? So kind of looking at
Michael,
Go ahead.
I have a quick question. I could barely hear you at the beginning of the call, but to clarify, so if to register next week, we don't have to have all our paperwork in if STIMS is not working. Is that correct?
If STIMS is not working, we'll cross that bridge. We'll cross that bridge when we get there. Everything we know will say STIMS goes live this week. If it doesn't, we will look at adjusting the paperwork needs. You will still need your coach agreements, and you'll still need 2 screen coaches. The only thing we will probably change is not requiring STIMS, meaning the rest of the members on the team roster. But anything that can be completed now, which includes pretty much everything regarding coaches, will still be required.
Okay.
If we do make any changes, we'll make sure that we announce that, put it on the MyCVR dashboard, and send it out by email as well. We do have a plan for if STIMS doesn't become available, but hopefully it goes available this week.
Okay, thank you.
What was I? Oh, yes. So, kind of looking at where we are in the season right now, the end of September. Well, teams start at different times. Depending on what qualifier you're attending, you may have little over 2 months, or maybe only a month and a half. So we hope that in the next week that teams start locking down what they want to do for in a typical season timeline. You probably want to make sure you start identifying the kids should start identifying what their problem is going to be for their research project. Start looking into sources, solutions, kind of scoping that out, planning it. Use the project project rubric as what judges will be looking for. And start making sure that you start solidifying the project portion of the challenge. Definitely before 2 to 3 weeks your qualifier, so 2 to 3 weeks prior to whatever qualifier you register, you want to make sure you really have everything locked down and start coming up with a way to present all this information to judges. And then making sure that whatever it is, a skit, a song, a table discussion, it's very open on how kids and teams present their judging project. Make sure that the kids practice that. Practice it often. Same thing going with the robot game table. Kids want to definitely work on it all the way up until the night prior, but it's also important that they practice the 2.5-minute matches. And if they're going to do any swap outs or any of that, make sure you've been practicing that for at least a couple weeks prior to your qualifier, so that the kids are not surprised by the time limit and that on event day. Phil, any reminders, or Steven, any reminders you want to provide right now?
Just keep checking for any challenge updates. But that coaches meeting before the beginning of the day, we'll announce any last minute ones that we're going to be upholding at that tournament.
Yes, and then if there's any questions on interpretation of how the head ref at that qualifier will interpret rules, it's important that that's brought up then, so that there's no surprises during the event day. First Lega League does give regions like Central California and some other, the ability to kind of do region-based interpretation of rules. We do have a page set up for that on our website. If you go into the resource library, you can look for the 2017 Challenge Q&A. If we do post any interpretations that we know we'll be using this season, we will be sure to post them there and announce it via our various channels. You can also submit questions and post on our Facebook group for coaches. We do announce a lot of stuff there relating to teams and coaches there, and that's a good place to ask questions and get clarifications. But that we'll also be using that page as kind of the Q&A page on our website as a way of indicating common answers to questions, questions to common answers to common questions. There we go. As well as any robot game interpretation. So there's both judging and robot game questions and updates on that page. Right now it's blank. We don't have any, but there may be some as we get into October. I don't think there's any new challenge updates since the kickoff. So I still think we're at 3 to 4 judging and 1 robot game. So be sure to follow those. Those definitely are important when you're evaluating projects and judging and all of that. First is put some clarifications on certain water-based topics that are not allowed this season. So, speaking of kickoff, we did post all of our recordings except for 2 of them because we still need to deal with some weird recording issues. Those are posted to the kickoff page, so if you want to rewatch any of the videos, the coaches Q&A for First Lego League as well as the topic experts panel were very good. Lots of good information shared in those sessions, so it's definitely worth watching those if you are have any questions or need guidance in those areas. Our veteran coaches answered a lot of questions regarding a lot of things, varying topics, and then our topic experts panel talked a lot about various issues regarding water in a lot of different fields. There was over an hour, I think, was that topic experts panel, and each expert we had 4, each of them talked for 10 to 15 minutes, if not longer. So definitely a lot of good information there if your team is still needing ideas or would like some guidance in those areas. Phil and Steven also did a deep dive of the robot game, so that's also available as a session. There's also an intro to judging that Callie did, covering a lot of judging information and how things work in the judging room. That can also be used as a resource if you have any questions. Regardless, there's no question big or small. If you want to shoot us an email at contact@cvrobotics.org or through our Facebook channels or on the Facebook group, we'd be happy to answer any questions as they come up. You can also use this avenue here on the phone to answer any questions. We'll be having we'll have a handful of these throughout the season. All the dates have been posted on our website. And definitely a good time to ask any questions for us to look into or answer here. Any other questions on anything related to our First Lego League? All right. Well, I think that covers it for what if there's no other questions, we can go ahead and end early. Callie's telling me that everything that you wanted covered has been covered. Is anything else from Stephen or Phil?
I got nothing, Michael.
Okay. Well, if you guys coaches have any other questions, don't hesitate to reach out to us on those channels I mentioned earlier, Facebook or email. Be happy to take any questions that you have. Looking forward to an awesome season this year, and hopefully we'll have more information regarding stims and that stuff as we get through this week. It's been a bit crazy. I do apologize. It's been crazy for us as well as we try to figure out what's going on with the national systems. So thank you all for doing what you're doing and joining us tonight on this coach seminar, and we hope you have a good rest of your evening. Scrimmage registration will open shortly, and then the rest of registration will open next week. So have a good evening and take care. Good night.